Sorry, everybody. I should have muted before I started typing. Welcome, and we will be starting in just a few minutes.
And please let us know if you can hear us.
We want to thank you all for coming. It's 8:01, but we're just going to give it a little bit more time just to make sure that everybody comes into the Zoom before we start. Thank you. Hey, welcome. I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Amy Carlson, and I'm part of the Continuing Education Committee, NASIG's Continuing Education Committee. We're so excited this year. We have so many ideas and programs that we're working on. And so we welcome you to our first session this year. But I just want to highlight, before we get started with our program today, some of our past sessions that are available to everybody on YouTube. So first of all, I'm going to put the, if I can do more than one thing at a time. Okay, I'm going to, let's see. Yeah, I can't send unfortunately, I can't send everybody a link because the chat is disabled. But I'm going to show my screen and show the YouTube, and we'll send out a link with the link to this program on YouTube, and we will also send out a link at that time to all the NASIG programs on YouTube. So thank you so much for your patience. Let me just share my screen real quick so you can see. So I just want to highlight, there are some video sessions from past NASIGs. There's also some of the CEC webinars. And if you go to videos and look at the latest, we have some we will be populating this with new ones just in about a week or so. And so all the ones from last spring will be showing up on this page. So I just wanted to highlight that before we started the program today. But Now we're going to start our program, and I want to introduce our wonderful speaker, who is one of the co-chairs of the CEC. Thank you so much, James, for being willing to speak today. James Rhoades has been the Assistant Director of Continuing and Electronic Resources at Virginia Tech Libraries since June 2022. Prior to Virginia Tech, he worked as a public services professional at Old Dominion University and Florida State University. During his final 3 years at ODU, he served in a joint role that included being the Collection Development Coordinator. That opportunity opened his eyes to a new and wonderful world and newfound respect for the inner workings and complexities of library resources. It revealed there's no magic, rather lots of smart, dedicated, and hardworking staff, ensuring people have access to resources, highlighting the importance of finding ways to appreciate them. So welcome, James.
Thanks so much, Amy. Truly appreciate your kind words. I'm going to try to share my screen. You all could bear with me just for a moment. And I'm going to try to... Are you all seeing the preview screen too? Or just the main screen? I guess nobody can answer me, right?
We are seeing the main screen and the seconds and the next slide.
About now?
Now we are seeing the list of all your slides on the left.
I truly apologize. Same thing still?
Yes.
Okay. Bear with me. I'm very sorry about this. We actually did try this prior. Let me... Slideshow from the beginning. Okay. Sometimes life doesn't work the way you want it to, right? Okay. We're just going to have to roll with this. So you see it with the presenter view. I guess that's okay.
Yes, that's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to thank you all for coming, giving me the opportunity to speak with you about something that I think is really important and oftentimes maybe neglected today. I've been a librarian for almost 20 years now, and I started out in public services, as Amy mentioned. I then moved over to behind the scenes work, and up to that point, I had worked in many different organizational structures, I'll say, where I worked with a department where it was team-based management. Then I've led many big projects where I had people working with me, but they weren't direct reports. And now I have a large number of direct reports. So I come at this with many different perspectives. So I'm just going to try to share some of my thoughts based on research that I've done and other presentations. I've tried to pull these things together. This initially was put together geared towards supervisors, but I think it works just as well for individuals because we all have a role to play in our daily environments of going to the workplace. So today's plan, I'm going to first speak a little bit about perspective, engagement, and culture. And then I'm going to unpack this idea that I thought was a pretty good idea, because I think we all invest in things that we care about. And then I'm going to consider the benefits. And along the way, we're going to have some polls. We're going to see how this goes. And let's try the first poll here. So this is just kind of to break the ice. Do you have a pet or pets? Now, I was recently, I was in a presentation where they did something similar like this with a Venn diagram, but they only had two options. They said, do you have a dog or do you have a cat? And I really didn't think that was very inclusive, because I think there are people, and I know you're looking at this slide right now and you're seeing, you see a dog and you see a cat and you see a chicken. I took all the animal images with the exception of one from the Slack channel at Virginia Tech Libraries. So in fact, one of my colleagues does have pet chickens. So let's open up this poll, and I don't know, Sophia, I hope that you can do that. Okay. Here's the results. It looks like 36% of the people have a dog, 56% have a cat, and it looks like 18% have other. And I imagine, you know, there's many ways you can answer this question, because there's probably quite a few people out there that may have a cat and a dog, or they may have a dog and a turtle. So you can see different people have different things. They bring different things to the table. Okay. So why does perspective, culture, and engagement matter? Well, if we think about perspective, the reason it matters is it's how we interpret things, and everyone's perspective is different. You may have a similar perspective with someone, but in many cases, it's always going to be unique to yourself. And there are things that can influence that. In regards to culture, it affects how I do things and how you do things within your organization. And engagement, it really affects how well you do things. And we're going to talk a little bit more about each one of these. So here we're at our second poll. So do you consider yourself more of a one-person band? Or maybe you look at yourself in your work environment as part of a rock group? Or maybe you feel like you're part of an orchestra. So if you could just take a moment and I've set these questions up. So if you feel like you're more than one, that's okay. Because sometimes you do feel like a one-person band, and then other times, hey, you may feel like a rock star and part of a rock group. So I can't answer this, but in a second, we'll see how you all answered it. Do we have the results, Sophia? Okay. Wow. There's a lot of people that share this perspective that they're more like a one-person band. A lot of people feel like it's an orchestra. And throughout different aspects of your job, you can feel this way in the various tasks that you do from day to day. But essentially, unless our 30% one-person bands are libraries where they're the only person that's working there, in essence, we all work within a group. And even if you are that person that works in a smaller organization, you're still working with other people, whether it's vendors, users, customers, that in that sense. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. Here's another one of our poll questions. This is just to really get us warmed up and to get to know one another. So do you consider yourself an extrovert, or do you consider yourself an introvert? Overall, this one, I'm not sure that I made it so you can answer both ways. And I know at times you have to be one or the other. I'll be honest with you. I'm more of an introvert. So, Sophia, let's see how people answered here. Okay, 85% consider themselves more introverted. Okay, and that shouldn't be surprising because I think this may be true for a lot of people that work within the library. Okay, you can see these are some family photos that I actually used for this slide. This little person here next to these doors trying to find a way out, that's my daughter. And if you look real close where my cursor is, that's actually me, despite being kind of introverted myself. Okay. So what do you see when you first look at this image? This is a classic image. It's called My Wife and My Mother-in-Law. So let's see what you see first. Now, you know, these pictures that are illusions, and this one is more than over 100 years old, that they're very popular right now. You know, if you look on popular publications where they'll tell you all about you just by how you answer this. But the reason I'm showing this, it's really to demonstrate that everybody perceives things differently. And Sophia, if we can reveal the results. A lot of pressure on Sophia. Thank you, Sophia. Most people see a younger woman first. I have to admit, when I look at it, I see the mother-in-law first. And perceptions can change over time. So this is very interesting. Okay. So the next slide. Now, this was something I was going to have people answer in chat, but I'm not sure if that's going to be possible or not. But, you know, when we're talking about culture, because we just talked about perception and how everyone's different, we need to talk a little bit about cultures, organizational cultures, and how do we really define that? And what I think is organizational culture in a very simplistic way could be, you know, what you do when other people aren't looking, how things are done at a particular organization or institute, or the accepted way to do things. You often hear, you know, when you go somewhere or someone begins a new job, they have to become acclimated to the culture of the institute. So how is culture measured within organizations? It's usually measured with climate surveys, interviews, focus groups. Lots of times, you know, when these are done properly and they're anonymous, they can provide some great insight into what people think. Now, the Pew Research Center did a poll, and they do this every year, about how Americans feel or view their jobs. And their take on this is that most people are satisfied with their jobs. You can see, you know, or somewhere in the middle, you know, their day-to-day task at work, they're 51% satisfied or extremely satisfied. But that tells me there's another half that aren't so satisfied. And obviously, we always would like more money if possible, so we can see that you know, only a third of the participants were satisfied with their pay, would like more. Well, Gallup also does the State of the Global Workforce survey every year, and it's actually a lot bigger than the Pew Research survey. And this actually looks, the report is more of a global, but you can then break it down into regions. And if you look at the United States and Canada, you see these three different areas that they describe, where you're either engaged, very engaged, or not engaged at all. And this idea of quiet quitting, this is something fairly new over the last few years that's come about. And what quiet quitting is it's people are coming into work, and this is 52% out of thousands that were polled in the United States and Canada. They're just coming in, they're going through the motions, they're doing their job, they're not engaged. But the good news is, there's 31% that are coming in, they're enthused about their job, they're actually wanting to do more things, and they really feel fulfilled. And then you have this other group, this loud quitting. These are the actively disengaged. These are people that are discontent, and they can do great harm to an organization because they spread their discontent. And I find this is a great report. If you haven't ever looked at it, I'd encourage you to take the time. So based on those that were quiet quitting, these are the ones that aren't engaged, that fall in the middle, the 50%. Gallup asked, well, what could you do to make things better? And I think this is a very important slide to look at, because, people want to be recognized. They want people to respect them. They want fairness. They want things to be equitable, and they want an inclusive environment. And, that's so important in everything that we do, is to make sure that we're utilizing everyone's skills and talents, and everyone contributes to the greater good of an organization or department. Whether you're the orchestra or the rock group or the one-person band, you really want to have that best workplace culture that you can. Now, this is a survey put out by the college and university professional associations for human resources, and this looks more closely at higher education. And we see that, there's contentness, but there's still areas in here that where people, it could be better. You have to think it could always be better. And that's what we want to strive at. And that's kind of what I think investing in people can get you to. If you're not familiar, Christine Parath from Georgetown University has done a lot of work regarding civility in the workplace. And she looked, while working on papers, she looked at people back, how rudeness actually rose from, over the years, where people they're being treated rudely at work. And what really got me interested in all this stuff was I can't remember how I came about it, but I found this book called The Dysfunctional Library, and it was published in 2018. And it really kind of hit on all this civility stuff, this engagement at work, organizational cultures, but from a library perspective. And as I read this book, it really, so much of it resonated with me. And it really called me out, and it made me actually look at myself. But, my goal is to look at the positive and not look at the negative. But we do need to contrast things when we're thinking about them. And, some of this may seem familiar to you, dictatorial leadership. Maybe someone has a supervisor where it's not very inclusive. You don't feel like you have an opportunity to share all your experience or your knowledge or even your input. Silos has been a thing for a long time where within organizations, whether it's big or small, you can, it's one group, it's the catalogers versus the serials, or it's the acquisitions against the interlibrary loan. Whereas a functional culture is going to be a culture that actually all these groups feel like they're part of one organization. And it's going to lead to very positive outcomes. So invest begins with you. So this idea of investment at work in the people that you work with, it begins with you. This is actually, I've got a 17-year-old son, and he's pretty good with Photoshop and all that. But this is a mirror that we own. It's my wife's mirror. And I thought, where do we really have to look at first? As you could see my preview screen, we're going to look not just at me. Don't blame everything on me, but investment and this whole idea really starts by looking at yourself, because the person that's going to make the change or initiate the change is going to be you. Gallup talks a lot about it's the manager. 70% of getting engagement better is the responsibility of the manager. And I disagree with that. And I believe it starts with each individual, because once you accept that you're accountable for what happens, then you can be the spark for change. Okay, we're going to do one more poll here. And this is kind of a spin on a bigger poll that Kristen Parath actually did in her 2016 work, Mastering Civility. And if we could just start that poll, it's 10 questions. I'm going to give you plenty of time to fill it out. Trying to fill it out honestly, so we can actually get a sense. But the whole idea here is how often do you do these things at work? And, it may seem simple, but, it is good if you're going to begin by looking at yourself to do a self-inventory, because there's always things. Sometimes you learn the most from your mistakes. And if you can learn from your mistakes, how much further ahead will you be? If I could only learn, I would be so wise if I always learned from others' mistakes. But quite often I find that I'm not as wise as I think, and I have to learn from my own. So we're going to give this a couple more minutes, because, and these, I think I set it up so you could only answer with one answer. Maybe I'll take a second to look at the chat. Okay.
While people are answering, we apologize that chat is disabled. We are unable to enable it at this time. So please use question and answers feature to put questions, comments, and whatever else you want to tell us. And we will be monitoring that and answering the questions as James talks and at the end of the webinar.
Okay. Sophia, can we tell if people are almost done?
Yeah, let's give it another 10 or 15 seconds.
Okay. You give me a chance to take a breath. Again, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be able to speak with everybody.
Okay, I'm ending the poll and we will see a result in a second.
Okay. Is anybody excited? We'll do a drum roll. Here we go. How often do you say please and thank you? Okay. Fortunately, nobody said never. That would be that would be that's a tough one. But we see that most people are saying please and thank you. It's very important. It's good etiquette. Okay. How often do you ask how often do you ask people how they are? Okay, we see that quite a bit sometimes. That's good. Almost never. Thank you for your honesty. How often do you compliment others? Okay. Some people almost always. I, I I can't wait to see your survey. I hope you're true to your word. Okay. How often do you speak kind of others? And this is kind of a question of, when the person isn't there, how often do you say good things about others? How often do you make sure everyone gets a chance to contribute? This is something that we all probably need to work on more and more all the time, because we really miss out on so much knowledge and a wealth of information when we can't get everybody involved. How often do you look out for others? Okay, these are, I think, pretty good results. Oh, look at this. How often do you show up on time? A lot of people don't realize that it really is a sign of respect when you're able to show up on time. And I know everybody has very busy schedules, back-to-back meetings, and it's a fine line, but it's a good thing to do. And these are things that are demonstrating civility in your organization. How often do you build up others? Quite a lot, sometimes. That looks like that's almost 90%. That's great. So as you can see, we're doing great with these, right? How often do you show interest in colleagues? I almost wonder if I should just stop this webinar. You all are so sharp. How often do you listen to others? Almost always. You should be, that whoever answered that should be very proud with themselves. Well, that's great. Okay. So this is just a small sample. The way that Christine Parath did it was from the incivility aspect. I thought it was better to look at it from a civility standpoint. Okay, so this whole idea of investing. So the first thing is inquiring. Okay, and what I'm really getting at with this inquiring is actually having conversations, asking your colleagues, the people you work with, how they're doing, and not just saying, how are you, Bob? How are you, Sally? But, when you're asking it, actually meaning it, actually wanting to hear how they are and giving them that time to actually speak. Now, I'm guessing that quite a few people have read this book. I mean, it's one of the most popular books over the last 100 years, published back in, I think, the 1930s. Dale Carnegie actually was doing seminars about, self-help book to be more positive. And what I really took away from this book that I've read a couple of times and I own, is the idea that people, if you give them an opportunity, they really like to talk about themselves, and they really enjoy it when you actually show interest in what they're saying. And I know a lot of people are busy and they're saying, well, I don't have enough time to do that. But I really think if you take just an extra moment, I'm not advocating that you sit down for half an hour or an hour, but just taking a few moments to actually let others know them. And, there's going to be times that, you don't want to ask certain things. You want to absolutely utilize social and emotional intelligence, in regards to body language. Keep it simple, but start to build a relationship with the people that you work with through inquiring, noting. Well, if you're going to ask people questions, you absolutely need to listen to them. And when I mean listen, there's I hear you, but I'm listening. And listening is an active exercise. I did this presentation for the Virginia Library Association a couple of years ago, and it was really emphasizing the idea of listening um, to underrepresented groups within libraries and hearing what they have to say. And the things that I found out, and this Kate Murphy, she's a contributor to the New York Times and some other publications. She's a journalist. Um, what it's really getting at is how important listening is. And the idea with listening is when you look at the amount of time public education or any type of education focuses on reading and writing compared to listening, out of these three different ways to communicate or receive communication, uh, listening is barely, it doesn't even register because we're taught so often to read and write, but to have, these communication skills with people, we really need to learn how to listen. And something that sociologist Charles Debner said in the 1970s was, do a supportive response when you're speaking with people and when you're talking to them, rather than directing attention away from the person that's speaking. And it's definitely something that's an active, not a passive exercise. Valuing, in my experience, whether it's staff, professionals, administrators, the thing that people want the most is they want to be valued. They want to know that what they're doing matters and that somebody notices it. Because when you value a person, you're not only establishing trust with the person, but you're giving them something to hold on to, something that says, what you did today mattered. What you did yesterday, your contribution, your comment in that meeting, or your suggestion on how to do things differently. Valuing is so very, very important with your interactions on a daily basis. Of course, encouraging, we're almost through here, but encouraging, I think, I really think the way you encourage people it's through appreciation. And what Gary Chapman and Dr. Gary Chapman and Dr. Paul White said in the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace, and this is kind of similar to the work that Dr. Gary Chapman did on the 5 languages of love, a very popular book published in numerous languages across the globe. People receive encouragement and appreciation in different ways. So as you're building these relationships through inquiring and noting what people are saying and valuing them, you can encourage them by trying to understand the way you can show them appreciation that's most welcome to them. Because, I may work with someone and I may tell them that they're great and that thank you, much appreciated. But the way they accept appreciation is they accept it through physical touch. Now this is this could be touchy. I mean, because it's physical touch, but I'm not saying to give people hugs. But remember the old idea that we used to give people high fives. We used to shake somebody's hand or pat them on the back and said, hey, you did a great job. There are people that's the kind of appreciation that they crave. Some people just want that extra 5 minutes for you to listen to them after you tell them, that they've done a good work. Some people respond well to gifts. And you might say, well, I don't have time to give everybody presents, but hey, if you know that one of your colleagues that works in your proximity that you're building relationship with, if it's their birthday, why not, tell them happy birthday and maybe even give them a cupcake or do something that just a act of kindness through a gift. It can be as small as a card, a homemade card, but these are encouraging people so important. Supporting. Well, when I think about supporting, I really think back to Patrick Lencioni's The Ideal Team Player. Now he's probably most widely known for the 5 dysfunctions of a team. But I think if you haven't checked out this book yet, you should give it a look, because what he really says is the ideal team player should be somebody that's smart, that's humble, and that's hungry. And it doesn't mean in the sense of, let's have another party where we bring in a cake or cookies, but hungry in the sense that the person's engaged. Okay. Just like we were talking about from the Gallup poll. And the problems when, or at least the way he identified it, when some of these are missing, where maybe you're only smart and you're humble, is you start to fall into these categories where, and I bet you we've all known people like this, the lovable slacker, where they're just such a great person, and they're nice to talk to, but they really ask you to do all the work. So the way you support people is to try to be that ideal team player where you're not the bulldozer. And trust me, if I look at myself in the mirror, there was a time I could be a bulldozer. But I realized that, it's so much better if I try to incorporate all these things and make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to participate and that everybody is appreciated. So I encourage you to look at this work. And as you can tell, I am a librarian. That's why I focus so much on books. But trusting, I really think PM Forney, he's passed back in 2018, but he was instrumental at Johns Hopkins setting up a project on civility. And he was initially he was a professor of Italian literature, and but he found that he thought it was so much more important to teach his students about kindness. And he actually came across this when he was teaching them about the Divine Comedy. And so I really gravitate towards this because, if you're going to interact with your colleagues and you're going to have conversations, it has to be a two-way street. And trust is so important, because if people don't believe that you can maintain a certain level of privacy with things that they tell you, they're not going to engage and interact with you. So we really have to trust people, and trust people in the sense, have you ever worked with anyone that, you play a part on a team and you have a responsibility and you do it, but you have that person's always saying, coming back, they're not trusting that you really did it right or you did it the way they would do it. So I really think to invest in people, we have to be able to trust them. We have to trust that people are doing their best and realize people make mistakes. We all do it. We're all human. And more important than anything is that there's many ways to do one thing. And we always want to be inclusive and open to new ideas. Okay, what can invest open? Well, I think it can open doors. Just like the picture in the very beginning of the introvert, my daughter. She was not just a little over a year old. Opening doors, opening dialogue. I mean, how do we really understand people? It's through conversation. It's through interactions. It's through engagement. It opens emotions. To show people empathy, to know a little bit about them, and to let them know that you're thinking about them, not only in good times, but in bad times. Maybe when someone's granddaughter graduates, you're saying, congratulations, what a great job your granddaughter did and what an influence you had on her. Or, maybe somebody is going through a very tough time of sickness or what have you. If you're there, that really means a lot when you invest. And kindness. I mean, kindness kind of trumps everything, because we grow so much when people are gentle with us and kind to us. So benefits. So another great work that I can recommend is How to Be Happy at Work. Now, I will tell you this. If you're going to read this book and you leave it sit on your desk and you let your supervisor see it, they may think you're not happy. That happened to me, but I'm always trying to find ways to be better engaged, and be more kind to others. But some of the benefits, if you really take to heart anything I say, is if you start to really show the people you work with, the people in your organization, that you care, it's going to help communication. It's going to expand relationships. It's going to maybe establish relationships where they weren't before. It's going to make things so much better. Okay, so ask yourself, if you will, I think I'm doing pretty good on time. Who are the people you enjoy working with and why? And then think about, who are the people you don't enjoy working with and why? Well, most studies will tell you that people are a lot more excited to work with people that treat them well. Maybe it's not true in all situations, but in most it will be true. You're going to find more enjoyment when you're actually being kind, caring for those that you work with, and they'll reciprocate those same feelings. So are you ready to make a difference and invest in others? I don't know if anybody's familiar with Monty Python's, but they used to do this song. And they used to say, and this is a poll, Sophia, if you can open it up. They used to do this song, and it was called Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. So this is kind of my play on it. And I hope everybody gets this right, because there is a right answer to this. We'll just give it a second. Maybe some people out there have a dark humor, and maybe they'll answer it wrong. So, Sophia, what do we got? All right. So the idea is to always look to brighten up someone's life. And I think if we do that, we're going to be so much further ahead. All right, and I do have a bibliography of all the resources that I've used. So if you want to go back to the recording and just go to the bibliography, you can find all these things. Great resources. And then, well, I really think, since I showed you my daughter from a few years ago, I should show you what she looks like now. That's my little girl, Grace. She's almost 7. She was a late, wonderful surprise in my life. And then that sharp little dog there that looks like a puppy, I thought that since I put everybody else's dog in here, and cats and horses and ponies and chickens, I figured I could put my own dog in here. And that's my dog, Oreo. And he's having a very happy holidays. Okay. So I really appreciate you coming, and be glad to answer any questions that anyone might have. Okay, we see that one person said we have a lot of people have time management challenges, and that really is true. Or just neurodiverse distraction issues. Yeah, we all have challenges that we deal with. But whatever challenges we're going through, I think it will always be best if we err on the side of kindness and caring for others. Many of those listen items that are open cost nothing but your time and your effort. That is very true. And then I can see other things here. Oh, somebody told me how I could have fixed the thing. I'm sorry. Wish I would have done it. Wish I would have read it sooner. Okay. Well, I don't see. Are there
Oh.
any books or articles on how to support neurodiverse colleagues? I'm not sure. Maybe some of our colleagues could chime in. I mean, this is a group of people that work in libraries.
We had a hand raised and from Susan Davis, and I think I allowed you to unmute yourself and talk, so please go ahead.
Yes, you did, Sophia, so thank you very much. This was again very inspiring, James. I enjoyed listening to this because, you know, if you have been in workplace situations where maybe people aren't being kind or generous, thoughtful, or even just, you know, basically civil, you become one of those quiet quitters. You know, that's one of the outcomes is people disengage. So there are certainly benefits to again trying to model as many of these things as is appropriate to your particular personality. I know that I'm not a morning person, so I don't really ask people how they're doing first thing in the morning because I I'm just not capable of listening to it. I always used to tease a person who used to answer the switchboard back in the days when you had to physically call in sick, how cheery they were, and you're sick, and you don't really want to hear the cheery person. But thank you for the bibliography and some of these uh, the books that we could check out further, but I was the one who put on there about how some of these things don't cost you any money. If depending on your workplace situation, you might not be able to give a gift that's more than a token. You can't give somebody a raise. You maybe can't send everybody home, or maybe you can. But, you know, simple little things like, you know, a 2-hour lunch can raise people's spirits and make them feel better about what they're doing. So again, I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate the information that was shared.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. And you're right. There's times during the day where I may go outside and take a walk, and I'm looking at more of my physical fitness, and I'm looking down. I'm not looking up at people. So there's a lot of truth in what Susan said, but the more that we try to make an effort, even if we are in environments that can sometimes seem toxic, I've been there. And it is discouraging, but each one of us can try to be someone that tries to bring civility back and try to counter those negative vibrations, I guess. But thank you, Susan.
Any other questions? Go ahead and put them in the question and answer. We do have a few more minutes in case you want to ask a question or give a suggestion for a book or an article or any of the above.
And it's totally fine if you don't have any questions, because that way you can actually get to that next meeting on time.
Oh, and I didn't confirm this with James, but Sophia actually already offered this as well. We will send the slides out with email to all the registrants with the link to the presentation. So so you will get a copy of the slides, and so that sometimes the fine print or the like all the citations will be a lot easier to see once you have the slide deck.
I'd like to just thank everybody once again for taking the time to come listen to me speak and to be a part of NASIG or any of the other partner organizations. Thank you so much for all your efforts. It truly takes a group of people to make all these things happen.
You have some thank yous and Q&A, and somebody said that it was the best webinar they ever attended. So thank you.
Someone is way too kind, but thank you very much.
Maybe you'll consider offering this presentation at an upcoming conference as well, when maybe there could be actual dialogue in the room, so to speak. This, Zoom meeting isn't necessarily the most interactive.
Susan, that's a great idea, and actually one that's a little ironic. This was a conference, it was suggested for a conference, but I think that your comment will help to maybe put it on a future conference agenda. So I think we should pass that along. Thank you.
So Amy, do we want to end this now?
I think
Yes,
so. Oh, sorry, Sophia.
I was just gonna say that